morning, fight fans. Welcome back to another episode of Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. All eyes on a number of combat sports this evening. There'll be bare knuckle boxing, there'll be a Bellator card, and then we have UFC Greenville, South Carolina. Should be interesting card. I know it's lost some of its luster without the John Lineker, Rob Font fight. But either way, we still have 11 fights to work with here. The DraftKings contest will still be moving forward, and we'll make the best of this opportunity. If people do want to sit this card out, this may be one of them, but I'll be playing. Let's get to the test right here. We'll get down to business. First off, first fight of the night, we've got Andre Ewell taking on Anderson Dos Santos at the men's 135-pound division. Andre Ewell coming in with a 14-5 record, taking on Anderson Dos Santos, who has been a bit of a journeyman, 20-7 record here. Now, Ewell, we've seen he's had some questionable starts to his fights. Tough to look good against Renan Barão in the first round. He was outclassed by Nathaniel Wood. Ewell, bottom line, this could come down to his lack of a ground game. Anderson Dos Santos, that's his bread and butter. He's going to want to take this fight to the ground, and if he's smart, he'll get it there. This fight opened with Anderson Dos Santos being quite a underdog, I believe in the plus 200 area. Currently, Anderson Dos Santos is the favorite, sitting at minus 120 according to BetDSI odds. Andre Ewell is sitting at plus 100. When we talk DraftKings here, this is one of the only fights where we'll see some line value. Anderson Dos Santos, 7,900. Remember, 11 fights. Folks will be gravitating towards this line value at 7,900. Anderson Dos Santos may be one of the highest owned fighters. We'll see. But the other thing is Anderson Dos Santos has a path to victory here. So I'm gonna roll with Anderson Dos Santos at 7,900. Next up, at the men's middleweight division, we have a phenomenal fight, considering both fighters have paths to victory here. We've got Deron Winn against Eric Spicely. Eric Spicely coming in on only 5 days' notice. Eric Spicely, the skateboarder, the submission grappler, recently won by knockout in his last 2 fights. Spicely, 12-4 record. UFC veteran, brought back to the table here, taking on Deron Winn. Deron Winn, we know, is Daniel Cormier's protege. Typically fights at 205 pounds. He's had a full camp here. 30 years old. Spicely, 32 years of age. I was surprised, although Eric Spicely is 9 inches taller than Deron Winn. They have very similar reaches. Deron Winn, fighting out of AKA, has the nickname. The guy just wins. You look at his high school wrestling record, 163 wins, 6 losses. He was a 2-time junior college national champion as well as a 3-time college All-American. But does that translate to mixed martial arts? I know he's got a 5-0 record, currently sitting at minus 345 at BetDSI. At other sites, I believe he's at minus 275 at 5 dimes. 9,300. This is a bit of a dangerous spot for Deron Winn. He's going to be fighting an Eric Spicely who knows what it's like to be cut from the UFC. He has a number of submissions under his belt. He has a submission against Chirico, who is also on this card. And then everybody's talking about the win over Thiago Santos. What this comes down to for me is Deron Winn. I see him bulldozing Spike Lee. If this fight goes to the ground, the guy's lived on the ground in wrestling. Granted, he hasn't had to worry about being guillotined, things of that nature. But I see a huge physical advantage for Deron Winn in this fight. He's going to have a full gas tank. He's going to have the power advantage. And Eric Spike Lee, in my eyes, it's one round or bust. If you are playing Spike Lee, you may want to look at the sub prop, or also Spike Lee wins by or wins in round 1. But I do not see this fight going the distance. Fight doesn't go the distance is sitting at minus 250 right now, and Deron Winn has to be coached up for this. And I'm interested to see what he looks like at 185 pounds. He said this is the first time he's been at this weight in just about a decade. So give me Deron Winn to win this fight. No pun intended. Next up, we have Molly McCann taking on Ariane Lipski. This fight's taking at 125 pounds. One of a few women's fights we have on the card. Lipski, known as the Violence Queen, though that hasn't translated yet in the UFC. Lipski coming in with an 11-4 record, taking on Molly McCann, who is 8-2. McCann we first saw in the UFC when she was rendered unconscious against Julian Robertson. McCann 7,100. Lipski 9,100 in DraftKings, sitting at minus 300 at the betting window. 25 years of age, Ariane Lipski. Lipski has looked good overseas. She looks like she's a dynamic fighter. She has a ground game as well as she has quality stand-up, 5-inch reach advantage. What folks need to recognize here also is that Molly McCann is coming off of that broken orbital bone and subsequent surgery. Molly McCann, she's going to bring this fight to Lipski. She seems like a much tougher woman than Lipski, but that does not translate. Lipski should be the more technical fighter. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 195. I don't see McCann going away. There's no way she's going to give up. She'll go unconscious. She'll get knocked out if she has to. I don't think Lipski has the power to finish McCann here. I think McCann's going to be in this fight. She's probably going to be losing the fight on volume. So Lipski by decision is going to be the play here. But McCann isn't going to go away. And I could see her getting in Lipski's face and making this an ugly fight, a closer fight than it needs to be. Okay. So last thing I'd like to say about this is Molly McCann at 7,100 in DraftKings. She's one of the better punt options out there. Next up, we're going to move up to the heavyweight division. We've got Alan Crowder taking on Jair Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik comes in with a 7-0 mixed martial arts record, but he had a very extensive kickboxing career prior to that. His kickboxing record was 76 wins and 6 losses. 64 of those wins came by knockout, which is an incredible statistic. Be wary, though, because there have been other fighters like Gokhan Saki who came in with an insane record, and he had been sparked out. In this case, Alan Crowder, who is very hittable, with losses to Justin Willis off the top of my head, just basically boxed Crowder up and finished him. Crowder, he's coming to this fight out of North Carolina, so I expect now this is his South Carolina card. They'll probably have a heavy contingency of fans there rooting for Crowder. Crowder 7,200 in DraftKings. Crowder has a path to victory here on the ground. Rozenstruik has some issues when it comes to defending takedowns. He fought in Ryzen and was caught greasing up before the fight there. He had to pay some sort of fine for that, although he did win that fight. Rozenstruik minus 215 at the betting window, 9,000 in DraftKings. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 300. Rozenstruik has he has the reach advantage. He has a striking advantage. And I really liked what I saw against Junior Albini, especially towards the latter part of the first round. Granted, he was getting transition through like a knife through warm butter against Albini, and Crowder doesn't possess that level of a ground game. When he gets on top, he's probably going to look to just ground and pound and not look for a submission here. Rozenstruik did defend submissions in that spot against Albini, and I think this may be a case where Rozenstruik may have to weather another storm. I'm expecting Rozenstruik to get this victory via knockout. It's a matter of if it's going to come in the first or the second round. Alan Crowder takes a lot of pride in his cardio. And one thing, I watched all of Alan Crowder's interviews, and for anyone who's seen Alan Crowder's interviews, he says, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Time and time again, like 30, 40, 50 times. This fight, I'm going to roll with Rozenstruik here to go to 8-0. We're not even going to talk about the Hardy fight. Had some success early in that fight, but I don't think that fight ended the way it could and should have if Hardy wouldn't have thrown that illegal knee. So let's go with Rozenstruik here at 9,000. Next up, we have the return of the mystery man, Matt Wyman, taking on Luis Pena. Luis Pena moving back up to lightweight after a failed attempt at 145 pounds. Big differences here in age, in height, in skill set, the reach advantage. Now, Luis Pena is coming in with an 11-inch reach advantage here. Luis Pena fighting out of AKA highest priced fighter on the card. Minus 370 at the betting window, 9,500 in DraftKings. Matt Wyman, nobody knows really where he's been. I've seen a couple of interviews done by him. Matt Wyman, cheapest fighter on the board, 6,700 plus 300. 35 years old. A lot has changed in this game since the last time we've seen Matt Wyman. Luis Pena should have an edge as far as the gas tank goes, as far as his boxing. The problem here is Luis Pena has made a few mistakes in his fights, and the weight cuts have killed him, so he's faded late. When I watched the weigh-ins, he was the sweatiest fighter on the scale, and looked like he had to work really hard to get to 155 pounds. So I expect Luis Pena to win this fight. The fight is minus 115 that it doesn't go to a decision. And I expect we'll see it end late. Luis Pena either locking up a submission or just an accumulation of strikes ends up taking out Matt Wyman. I thought we may see Matt Wyman look better on the scales, believe it or not, since maybe he has had time to really get himself in gear. I wonder how this fight was made. Did he have a fight on his contract that was just hanging out there that he decided to just wait 5+ years between bouts? I have no idea how or why he's in the spot, but Luis Pena is going to be picked here to win. Next up, we've got Dan Ige taking on Kevin Aguilar. Kevin Aguilar, 17-1. And when you look deeper into his record, he actually fought 15 amateur fights as well. So he has a very robust resume, or at least fight card. Hasn't fought the best names though. Dan Ige, 11-2. We've seen both of these guys, the Contender Series. Dan Ige has looked great in his last few fights. He did take a loss to Julio Arce. Problem with Dan Ige is he seems to come out very aggressive, and he doesn't have the best gas tank. He can burn himself out. And that is a danger in this fight against an Aguilar who has shown quality takedown defense and also knows when to turn it on the feet. Kevin Aguilar at 8,400, Dan Ige at 7,800. This fight is very closely lined right now. Plus 125 for Ige, minus 145 for Kevin Aguilar. The fight is expected to go to a decision. Aguilar has a 2-inch reach advantage here. I think it's going to come down to cardio and also who fights better at range. Ige is going to try to take this fight to the ground. I don't think he's going to have success. And my pick is Aguilar to get his 18th victory here. Watch out for Ige by submission, though. The guy has a great ground game as well. Good fight, though. Next up, we have in the women's 125-pound division. Or is it? No, 115-pound division. We've got Ashley the Spider Monkey Yoder taking on Shiri Kondo. Kondo fighting out of Japan here with a 6-2 record. $8,000 plus 100 even odds here. This will be a fight that, for the most part, I'll be avoiding. Though Ashley Yoder could come out of the gate here striking, and it depends on, as far as fight metric goes, who's going to be at the helm here. We'll see. But Mackenzie Dern fought a very close fight against Ashley Yoder. I'm not saying Mackenzie Dern is a quality opponent, but Ashley Yoder has held her own in a number of fights. She has losses to Angela Hill, Justine Kish, and something that's disturbing is you don't want to see fighters go into a split decision against Jodie Escobel, and that's what she did there. So I'm going to be staying away from this as far as betting is concerned, but I'm leaning towards the better athlete here. Ashley Yoder. Kondo's going to look to keep this on the feet. I mean, look at the this fight, minus 425 to go to a decision. I have no idea how this fight ended up on the main card, but this might be a bathroom break fight for me. 8,200 Ashley Yoder. I lean towards Yoder to get the victory. Next up, we have a very, this fight, when I watched the weigh-ins, these guys were eyeing each other up, and it looked like these guys wanted a bang. We've got, in the men's middleweight division, Eliseo Chirico against Kevin Holland. Eliseo Chirico, 12-2, taking on Kevin Holland, 15-4. Kevin Holland has fought some very stiff competition recently. 8,800 Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, some very suspect in-fight decision-making. When he fought Mearshart, that was a real issue. My son just lost his tooth. Congratulations, Tim. 8,800 minus 205. 7-inch reach advantage for Kevin Holland in this fight. Kevin Holland fought he did not give up against Thiago Santos, and that fight was taken on very, very short notice. So, long story short, he's going to, although he has suspect decision-making skills in fight, he's going to give it everything he has. Eliseo Chirico, 12-2 record, 7,400 plus 170. He is an underdog that I'm eyeing up. fights out of Italy. Chirico, though, he doesn't have many options other than what he brings to the table. He's kind of set in his ways here, and I think that that's going to cause him some issues the longer this fight goes. I think Kevin Holland will be able to figure him out by the second or third round. So it's hard when you want to pick underdogs who may come through. I see Chirico capitalizing on some mistakes that Holland may make, but the longer the fight goes, I'm leaning Holland to get the win here. I wish Chirico had more time invested in the sport, and he fought at a better camp, because Kevin Holland, to me, he's to be had. If he was fighting a higher caliber opponent, I think he would lose in this spot. But Chirico, not the best opponent to be facing here. So Kevin Holland's going to be the pick. Andrea Lee taking on Montana De La Rosa. I see people on both sides of the fence in this fight. Women's 125-pound division. Andrea Lee, she's had some success in other promotions, Invicta, etc. Seasoned veteran of the sport, 10-2 record. She comes to every fight in great shape, 8,700 in DraftKings. Montana De La Rosa, 7,500, working very closely with her husband, Mark, who's also a mixed martial artist. She's been really working on her boxing, but I haven't seen a dramatic improvement. She wants to take this fight to the ground. It's just a matter of if it's going to get there. And then is she going to maintain and advance positions in this spot? Andrea Lee, she's a quick, savvy veteran, and she's going to be looking to move. She made Ashley Evans Smith look like Ashley Evans Smith was in molasses in that fight. And Andrea Lee may be one step ahead of Montana De La Rosa in this fight. I am concerned that the output of Andrea Lee is going to put Montana De La Rosa at a disadvantage early, and it's tough to rely on a grappling victory as your only path here, and that's really what Montana De La Rosa has. She isn't going to outstrike Andrea Lee. I wish this fight happened a little bit later in Montana De La Rosa's here, because I think she does have a high ceiling, but Montana De La Rosa is 24 years of age. She is live here. I expect Andrea Lee to win this fight by decision. But if Montana De La Rosa wins this fight, it's going to be by submission. So if you are playing Andrea Lee, you may want to look at the Montana De La Rosa by sub prop. Next up, we have Bryan Barbarina taking on Randy Brown. Barbarina, 9,200. One of the higher priced fighters in DraftKings. He's been incredibly durable throughout his career, except he's coming off of a massacre at the hands of Vicente Luque. Bryan Barbarina looked fabulous during portions of that fight, but the tide turned. He survived some deep chokes, and he's going to be taking on a Randy Brown who has looked brittle in some recent fights here. Bilal Muhammad looked great against Randy Brown, and so did Nico Price. And I'm wondering, this is only 4 months after the Vicente Luque massacre. I wonder if Barbarina has the durability here. Randy Brown is going to be at a 6-inch reach advantage. This fight is expected not to go to a decision. The Ellenberger fight looked great for Barbarina, although Ellenberger is now since retired. Randy Brown, $7,000. in DraftKings. He's an underdog you may want to look at, plus 220. But Barbarina could win this fight on the ground. He could win this fight by waiting in the pocket and using the clinch, landing strikes. I think Barbarina is going to be the safer play here, but I do question his durability. It's got to come into question. You can't just war after war after war just take damage like he's been taking. Barbarina 14-6. I was at his fight when he was getting completely destroyed by Sage Northcutt and ended up coming back to win that fight. But Barbarina is one of the safer plays from DraftKings. If you look at his previous history, his body of work, the guy has been incredibly durable. Next up, we have, believe it or not, that was the co-main event of the evening. Next up, after losing the John Lineker-Rob Font fight, which, that was a killer. We have Renato Moicano against Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie coming in after getting brutally knocked out in the final second against Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, who came in on short notice at Elevation in Colorado. He looked phenomenal against Chan Sung Jung. Sung Jung may have been ahead on the scorecards, though everybody knows you can't count Yair Rodriguez out with all the spinning shit that he throws. Renato Moicano is not somebody who's going to bring a lot of surprises to the table. Moicano 13-2-1 record, 30 years of age, minus 205 at the betting window, 8,600 in DraftKings. Korean Zombie 7,600 plus 170. You'll want a piece of this fight if you're hoping to take down a GPP. This is a 5-round fight. Renato Moicano, a very high output fighter who throws a lot of leg kicks early. I think we'll see him have success with that. Korean Zombie's going to look to close the distance. I tweeted something out earlier in the week that the Calvin Kattar fight with Renato Moicano was not a flash in the pan. We've seen him put his game plan together, and what I've seen from Moicano is that he was starstruck against Jose Aldo in their fight, and he made a careless mistake against Bryan Ortega. So he has the ability to put it all together. There's a question. There's a bit of an unknown. Is he going to be able to go 5 rounds here? What's going to happen when Chan Sung Jung closes distance and cuts off angles? And what's going to happen when this fight hits the ground? We know Moicano has a great ground game, but so does Korean Zombie through the years. Now, Sung Jung, he has fought only a few times. I believe this is only his 3rd fight since 2013. That is an incredibly long layoff. He should be ready to go all 5 rounds here. I wonder how much that knockout loss took out of Korean Zombie. Seems to always show up the same. The Moicano-Aldo fight, there wasn't as much damage taken on Moicano's part as Korean Zombie did against Yair. So another concern of mine is the tall man defense that Moicano uses when he's backing up. I think that if Korean Zombie is going to find success, that's one place where it could happen. And the later the fight goes, Moicano really has to invest in those leg kicks early. He's got to take Korean Zombie's mobility away from him. The longer this fight goes, that's going to be something to look out for. But I like Moicano here. Got him at minus 185 and minus 190. Right now he's sitting at minus 205. Very interested in this main event. And then that closes out the show. I wish there was more action on this card, but you also have the bare knuckle boxing this evening. Malinaji taking on Artem Lvov, and then the Bellator card as well. So keep an eye out for those. Want to wish everybody a great fight night, and you can follow me at Capertech as well as Bet MMA. Signing off. Check out MMA Oddsbreaker and also Bet DSI. Have a great evening, my friends.